Okay, we are live.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, regardless of where you're calling from. Welcome. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, afternoon, good evening, everyone. We will get started in another minute. We have a jam-packed agenda for today's webinars. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds. Thank you for joining us. We'll give everybody some time to move from one meeting to another, as we all know. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, regardless of where you are this morning. For me, welcome everyone to the Hyperledger Foundation Hyperledger Project webinar on Hyperledger FireFly 1.0 is here. So we're very excited about today's presentation. My name is Daniela Barbosa. I'm the Executive Director of the Hyperledger Foundation. And today I'm going to get the chance to introduce our panelists, but also take you through some housekeeping. So a couple of things. I would encourage everyone, if you go into the chat, just say hello, let us know where you are zooming in from. I'm zooming in from San Francisco this morning, and it's great to see everyone, and our panelists as well, which I will introduce in a second. Today, as usual, if you've attended other Hyperledger Foundation webinars, we just have some housekeeping. So first of all are welcomed here in the Hyperledger community. We're here to create a safe and welcoming community for all. So please follow the Hyperledger Code of Conduct when interacting with one another and when talking to others in the community as well. A couple of housekeeping rules. Once again, all Hyperledger Foundation project meetings, webinars, etc., are held under our Linux Foundation antitrust policy. So please read the policy. If you have any questions around things that you should or should not say, do let someone on staff know, or you can contact our legal firm by following that full policy link. Once again, we are recording this webinar, and the recording will be available in our webinar library along with the slides for further use. Couple of things to make sure you get the best out of this webinar today. We do have a jam-packed webinar with lots of speakers, so we're going to ask that you put your questions and answers into the question and answer box. For those of you who are new to Zoom webinars, there's a box in the middle that says Q&A, as that image indicates. Go ahead and put your questions and answers there. You can also put your questions into the chat, and we will get to them either through the presentation or at the end as well. For those of you who perhaps have a question that doesn't get answered, we also encourage you to join our Discord channel, and we'll put that into the chat in a little bit. And feel free to ask your questions there after the fact, and we will get through them as time permits. So once again, stay active, get the most out of it. We're here to educate you, to teach you what is happening in our ecosystem, and more importantly, get you familiar with, in this case, Hyperledger FireFly. So once again, I'm very happy to present our panelists today. Hyperledger FireFly is one of our projects that came into the Hyperledger Foundation in the early summer of 2021. And what I've seen the community, the contributors and the maintainers, many that you'll speak today, do about building a community around FireFly has really been amazing. And it's really one of the things that companies, when they think about bringing their open source projects to a foundation, really find powerful to bring it to the Hyperledger Foundation, where we can create these open source communities. So once again, from a panelist perspective, we're going to have three parts of our panelists today. We're going to start off with Steve Carini, who's the founder and CEO of Kaleido. So hi, Steve. Then we're going to have a panelist with Sofia Lopez, who's the founder and CEO of Kaleido. For her panel period, we're going to have Kyle Culver, who's the director of emerging technologies at Humana and a co-founder of the Synaptic Health Alliance. We're very interested in hearing from him on how they're using Hyperledger FireFly. And then Patrick Schmidt, who is the vice president of the Institute Riskstream Collaborative. And that will be an engaging conversation with Sophia about how companies and consortiums are taking Hyperledger FireFly as an open source project, working with a company like Kaleido, who have implemented and contributed a lot of the FireFly code into the Hyperledger Foundation to build their solutions as well. So I am looking forward to that discussion. And then we're going to close off with Nico, who is one of the maintainers at Kaleido and really one of the leaders in our community, in our Hyperledger FireFly community. So we're looking forward to hearing from him, and he's going to give you some demos on how to get started. So once again, please add your questions as we go along in the Q&A form, and we look forward to this great panel. Steve, over to you. There you go. Oh, Steve, can you hear us?
Yes.
Just use your laptop speaker.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Happy to see everyone today. I'm going to start the screen share, and we'll jump in. We're on the East Coast of the U.S. in sunny Raleigh, North Carolina. Nice spring afternoon where the high is 85 degrees. That's about 30 degrees Celsius, if my math is correct. See my screen okay? All right, thank you, Daniela. You already covered the agenda, so I'm going to jump right in. But before we get into 1.0 and what's new and exciting, first, if you're new to FireFly, let's take 2 or 3 minutes just to help orient you. You're a developer at a company, at an enterprise, and you want to build your first blockchain app. Well, now what? There are many challenges and problems that are facing you. I've listed off some table stakes ones on the left: the architecture, how you fit in tokens, selecting a protocol, the security considerations, data privacy, how you're going to get events on and off chain, manage transactions, and so on. And then as you get into the project, you actually find a whole set of advanced problems, realizing that the future is really a multi-chain world. You want a higher level of accuracy and resiliency, so things like audit trails for that data that can't go on chain. You have to figure out how to transfer it if it's a B2B use case amongst counterparties. Error handling is quite complex. And then, of course, actually integrating with existing systems is always the hardest problem, isn't it? No matter what the project is. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a platform or a technology stack that handles this for you? Wouldn't it be even better if it was open source and run by one of the leading communities out there through the Linux Foundation? Well, good news, there is, and that's what FireFly really does, and what the community is really excited about and the purpose of it. It handles out of the box support for multiple different protocols and chains. It has native support for things like tokens and digital assets. It's very pluggable, so you can bring your own wallet, custody, key management solutions. It also has out of the box off-chain technologies as well. So depending on your approach to data privacy, you have options. It has a robust orchestration layer. So things like reliable event delivery, retries on transaction submission, and so on are there. And it has a rich data layer as well out of the box. So a caching layer, a place to aggregate your private data, receive counterparty data, and so on. And of course, I mentioned it's open source and an enterprise-friendly license. And with the 1.0 milestone, it's ready to get you to production and into scale mode as well. And then we'll talk a little bit on the panel probably about future-proofing your project, as we know that that's a concern and how FireFly can help there. So again, just a quick glance at the timeline. Daniela mentioned the project's almost a year old now. It started with a contribution of some code from Kaleido primarily. About 4 months later, the project moved up from a lab to an incubating project. And now we're here today hitting another significant milestone, 1.0 launch. I want to call out, the community and the developers, really hats off, over 200,000 lines of code today across 12 repos and growing. Just really impressive to see the community rallying around this technology stack, this promising project. I listed off a few things on the right, but we're going to get into some of those details presently about what a FireFly is and what it does in more detail. So let me introduce to you FireFly as it now exists in its 1.0 form as a supernode. So it is not a blockchain, right? Look down at the bottom here of this architecture slide. There is a blockchain in the picture, but it's in the gray dotted line box. The world doesn't need another blockchain protocol, in my opinion, or another L2 or whatever else. But the world could really use rich, reliable connectivity and integration into the Web3 space. And that's what the FireFly SuperNode is here to do. Really at the core is FireFly Core. And the orchestration engine is at the center of that, all backed by a scalable event bus. The core also has a rich data layer, which I'll unpack a bit in a minute. It includes both your private data as well as data that's been shared to you and broadcast across a network and through shared storage like IPFS, as well as chain data as well. FireFly is also tracking your state along the way, so both network state and chain state. It has a rich security pillar as well. We'll talk about identity and how that fits in, always a deep topic, as well as API security and end-to-end encryption. Really, the top three boxes here are the key as a developer. This is what you see for FireFly, so they're in the rich colors. There's a set of APIs to help build an app quickly and really serve as a gateway to all these technologies that you're trying to connect into. And there's a way to simplify the sort of robust and complicated lower level of protocols as well, so that developers can talk over friendly REST APIs like they're used to. In addition to apps, there's a set of APIs around flows. So, in this sort of event-driven type system, multi-party systems that get built on the back of blockchain or on top of blockchain, data is in motion, right? And there are many hops. We sometimes call it ping pong. FireFly is here to simplify the ping pong and all of the hops of those data flows. And then, of course, this wouldn't be a Web3 supernode without rich support for digital assets, the native token APIs, things like wallet support and transfers, as well as mint burn and other things. And then there's a rich tooling support. Really excited about the Explorer that you're going to see as part of the demo. Nico's going to take you through some of the developer stack. And this is not just a framework, this is a runtime. So there are also DevOps tools. This is a set of servers or a running system or platform. So it's modern software, it runs on Kubernetes, it plugs into cool technologies like Prometheus that really get DevOps folks excited. So now I'm going to step into some of these pillars in a little bit more detail for a few minutes. So this really is a Gen 2 approach to building out a Web3 app or a dApp or a blockchain application, eliminating tons of custom code. We found at Kaleido companies that port over to FireFly eliminate over 80% of the code of the application. Would you like to write 80% less code in your next application? Right? I think it's really a no-brainer. And you can choose whether to tell your boss or not. We won't tell for you. Okay. So one of the newer things in the application stack is the API generator. This is the idea that as your Web3 developer and separation of concerns from traditional IT development skills to Web3 development, a Web3 developer who's developing smart contracts or chain codes can take those schemas and the implementation of those and can upload those into FireFly or can publish them. And what FireFly will automatically do is generate RESTful APIs. So that the API definition for those, and then those endpoints are then supported and available for traditional application developers who are writing the core business logic of the system. Staying in kind of the app pillar. Zooming in a little bit to the different layers that are within FireFly with your application on the left and all of the Web3 type connectivity and runtime systems on the right. In the middle is FireFly with the simple APIs that I was just talking about a second ago, but backing that as a really reliable, high concurrency system of an event bus. And then a connection manager that's managing all of the connectivity and raw RPC connections out to the blockchain nodes and the other technologies that you're using. Moving on to data flows for a minute. This is really about on-chain and off-chain working together, hand in hand. A lot of times we see consortium type networks start with B2B use cases. B2B use cases almost always have data flows, documents moving amongst different organizations or counterparties in a consortium network. So in addition to the blockchain, there's an IPFS layer that's there for broadcast and shared storage. There's also a private data bus, so completely off-chain, but the APIs are there to tie off-chain data transfers on-chain. You can move messages, you can move entire documents, things like chunking those documents up, end-to-end encryption, other features as part of the data bus. And then of course the hashes, the proofs go on-chain and all of that just works end-to-end. Moving into the third pillar for a minute, digital assets. There's lots of new functionality here in V1, really to manage tokens at an institutional scale. So moving from doing that POC with one token into thinking about hundreds and thousands of digital assets. A lot of the customers and users of FireFly in the financial services space are really thinking about that end game. So a rich native token API for coins, NFTs, 1155s as well, as well as a rich audit trail. So having the full lineage of a token, whether it's minted through FireFly or not, FireFly can listen, it can learn, it can late join to tokens that already exist out in public chains and so on. And then also really important to the digital asset stack is your strategy around wallets and custody of those wallets. There's no one answer, but FireFly makes it easy to integrate regardless of your solution there. Dropping down a layer for a second into core. it's really about orchestration and data orchestration at the end of the day. So the engine is almost like the brain that's really powering this event-driven system. Things like batching of transactions are a native part. Sequencing, of course, is extremely important. You want to deposit before you withdraw, the classic example. As well as correlation across different channels. So you want to pay for something in coin, and then you want to document deliver it over another channel. So the reliable, delivery versus payment, DVP, or some of those other use cases are where we get to really important, use cases and enabling those. And that's what FireFly helps you do. Also in the core, the data management layer, there's a lot going on at this layer, structured and unstructured data in that core data store, as well as the digital asset manager that's keeping, transaction indexes as well on the chain state side and blockchain event index, so that correlation happens again within sort of the brain of the orchestration layer. And then on the network side, we haven't talked a lot about the network map, like in a B2B network, an address book, the fact that you have an organizational identity, which may be different than your on-chain identity, and how you as an organization keep track of that broader network map of your counterparties. That's also in the box and part of the FireFly stack. Just spending a minute on the tools. I want to call out the community for a second time with the Explorer, just an awesome piece of software. It was completely rebuilt in this 1.0 release. It looks amazing. If you don't see this screenshot and just want to try FireFly, then maybe you don't love software as much as you used to, because it's really just cool. Looking at some of the different options out there in the open source space, comparing it to commercial software, the Explorer stands up, and it has tons of functionality to really help you do what you're going to do. Nico's going to show you that in a minute. And then there are a whole set of other tools to help you as a developer, and as you move into DevOps mode and transition from build to run. FireFly is cloud ready. It's modern software. We started on Kubernetes day one. This really helps you as an organization build modern software on top of it. You want to build next generation stuff, so you want to be on the latest technology stack. It's cloud ready, sort of born in the cloud, whether that's a public cloud or your own private cloud. There also are hosted options available through vendors that are involved in the FireFly space. And it's designed to scale. So it's fundamentally a microservice architecture. So it's stateless where it should be stateless. It helps you achieve, again, a modern architecture. It goes without saying in this Hyperledger call that it is enterprise ready, open source. It is highly extensible and pluggable. So you can take this, as some of the other FireFly users that I'm aware of and work with are thinking about, okay, well, FireFly has this rich connector layer. I want to build a custom connector to connect off to this custom system. You can totally do that with the Apache 2 license. And it's built that way so that you can continue to stay updated with FireFly going forward. So what will you do with FireFly, right? Are you thinking about a B2C use case? Your customers, you want to build the new digital experience with them. Are you thinking B2B and more of a consortium network, and you're thinking about data flows? Are you finding new business opportunities out in Web3 in the broader space? FireFly really is the technology stack to help you do that. Before we move into the panel, I did want to just touch a little bit on 1.0 and post 1.0. Things that are immediately on the truck. The community is kind of already prioritized into active development. More support for public blockchains. There are nuances, whether you're looking at Ethereum layer 2 versus mainnet Ethereum. There are many other protocols out there as well. So lots of interest in more public connectivity, and that connector framework's just going to scale and allow more connectivity to drop in. Of course, more samples, additional documentation is coming soon. I know there's lots of action and activity there. And then just more work around the SDKs to make it easier to drop FireFly APIs directly into your code. Things that are maybe a little bit further out, but lots of active interest. What we call multi-ledger support. So FireFly is multi-protocol right now. It knows how to talk to multiple protocols. Maybe you want to use multiple ledgers in a single use case, right, for a single set of flows. So making that a lot easier to do. Enhancing the Web3 gateway with even more tools to help you manage all of that connectivity, get to the root of any issues that occur and manage those in real time. And then, of course, security is a journey as well. And we'll be adding more plug points into the API security and doing more things along the way. Okay, well, I think that's the end of my time. I'm going to turn the audio over to Sophia, who is going to engage with the expert panel here.
Thanks, Steve. Can everyone hear me? Pat and Kyle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, we wanted to give people a flavor of how the different projects and initiatives are actually using FireFly and what sort of benefits and motivations are behind that. I've been in the enterprise blockchain space since 2015 and have worked with thousands of projects and clients. And I have to say it's an honor and a privilege to have Kyle and Pat here today. We work with a lot of leaders in their respective industries, and Pat in the insurance industry, Kyle in healthcare, really have done quite extraordinary things and bring a lot of true business and technical leadership and how they're approaching sort of guiding their respective networks. So just wanted to do some brief intros, but have Pat and Kyle introduce themselves and also share a little bit about their respective initiatives. So Pat, if you want to kick it off.
Sure. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Pat Schmidt. I am the Vice President of the Institute's Restream Collaborative. We are a blockchain consortium, and within the insurance industry, we serve both the property casualty market and life and annuities. A little bit of background on myself. I came up with the initial concept for the Restream Collaborative and implemented it. My role is to oversee our different departments within Restream, basically our core business. Background is I'm a PhD economist, and I've been working in the insurance industry for about 15 years. A little bit more on Restream itself. We're the largest blockchain consortium in insurance. We're backed by an organization called the Institutes, which was formed out of Wharton 100 years ago, provides property casualty education services and research to the industry, and is backed by a board of about 40 to 50 CEOs that represent about 60 to 70% of domestic insurance premium volume. So we are implementing blockchain technology within the insurance industry to streamline flow and verification of insurance information between parties.
Thanks, Pat. And Kyle?
Hello, my name is Kyle Culver. I'm a Director of Emerging Technology with Humana and a co-founder of the Synaptic Health Alliance. I come from an engineering background. I've been with Humana about 10 years and been leading into the blockchain healthcare space since kind of the 2015, 2016 timeframe. Synaptic really came out of some conversations with a group of healthcare leaders and looking at the technology and saying that these technologies are really beneficial for us to collaborate and not really beneficial, within the organization. And so looking for opportunities that were lower risk to get started and begin learning together. And so we picked a use case to be able to crowdsource public data that we were spending a lot of time on and resources on to improve that quality. So like Dr. Smith is on Market Street and is available at this address and phone number. data elements are very difficult for the healthcare industry to maintain at a high quality, and there's a lot of resources spent on that, roughly around $2 billion. And so that's the use case that we came together and said, this is something we can learn on, and those learnings will really be applicable to other types of collaborative activities in the future. So that's where, we've met some of these other folks here and really excited to see what the community's been doing with FireFly.
Thanks, Kyle. You mentioned just some choices about getting started and how you approach that. I was wondering, Pat, if you could share some thoughts just on trade-offs as, from a building perspective and looking at writing your own custom code, whether that's with an internal technical team or working with consultants and systems integrators for a blockchain solution versus using a project like Hyperledger FireFly.
Yeah, it's a great question. Within the Riskstream Collaborative, we're aiming to create this ecosystem with risk management to leverage enterprise blockchain to streamline the flow and verification of data between these different parties in a variety of multi-party business processes. And through our journey, leveraging blockchain, which probably began late 2016, 2017, we've explored a variety of different elements related to this technology. Early days, we were building proof of concepts on public blockchains. We learned a lot from that process, and we then started leveraging assistance from consulting organizations to build our own private permission variant. And we learned a lot from that process too about some of the pluses that the industry wants in terms of privacy, security, what they felt comfortable with in terms of information being stored on different systems and that type of thing. And it was interesting because around 2022, we learned more about Kaleido and your work related to 2021 FireFly. And prior to that, we had been building our various versions of private permission to enterprise blockchain on our own. And what we learned was a lot of the capabilities that we were seeking to build on our own through consultants and a variety of other sources was already built or was being built and completed. And therefore, the development associated with what we were doing could be reduced significantly. In addition to that, it allowed for us to leverage some of the pluses associated with open source technology, more flexibility, less licensing costs to pass on as a not-for-profits to our members, which are carriers, brokers, and reinsurers operating in the insurance space. In addition to that, we could set up nodes very, very quickly, efficiently, and have integration capabilities. Some of our use cases are directly integrated into existing systems like claim systems. So therefore, the time to market was reduced significantly. In addition to that, FireFly gives us some potential to leverage tokens, which can help with economic incentives, providing incentives for competitors to want to share information with one another when theoretically they may not want to do that otherwise. And then finally, it allowed us to establish some best practices, which allow the consortium to move faster as a group. Consortiums are often, a major challenge within consortia is often the case of getting the group to move forward in a variety of ways, and having this technology have certain best practices associated with it allowed us to move a little bit quicker than we would have otherwise.
Thanks, Pat. I think that's a great answer. And one thing I think that is a good bridge to a question I wanted to ask Kyle was when you brought up the token capabilities that are built in and how those could be used. I know you have an economist background, so you're thinking about different economic models. Kyle, I know that Synaptic looked at ways to incentivize the right behavior because you have a number of payers who, in some sense, are competitors or could be seen as competitors, but here they're collaborating. And how do you get the right sorts of behaviors and alignment in a network, which is a completely decentralized, there's no central entity, everyone's just collaborating and working together. So I think it might be useful for everyone to understand how you use in Synaptic, the Health Alliance used the token-based model to help accomplish that.
Sure. And on the website, if you go to Synaptic Health Alliance website, there's a white paper there that digs into this at a different level of detail. But from a very high level, we understand that we have, a broad number of players that could play different roles. And so one role may be providing data, and another role may be going in and saying that this data is validated or this data is wrong. And so that signal of understanding across millions of records what's wrong and needs to be removed is really the signal that the Alliance is looking to get. Because it's not that we don't have enough data as Alliance members, it's that we don't know, what may be wrong and need to be pulled, or what may need to be, validated, and then sharing like the divide and conquer approach. And so when we looked at those activities, we were able to pull out, these are the different activities that we want to incentivize. We didn't, believe from, looking at other alliances across healthcare that an altruistic approach would work. There is a lot of effort that goes into curating this data. And so we really wanted to make it to where the incentives were in place to where we could, kind of have that marketplace there for people that are sources of data and firms that are sources of data, as well as consumers of data, and then that they're allowed to participate as they see fit. So we're not forcing an organization to share all of its data or share these types of data, but we have the incentives really there to drive that behavior. And we've seen that that's been successful, that has been implemented, and it's something that's been, tested and verified. And so that's been, I think, a key step to us saying, hey, we want this to function as a utility, right? There's not a goal here for this to be a revenue stream for these organizations. The function is that it's just equitable for the people doing these activities and then sustainable for the Alliance overall.
Thanks, Kyle. I think it's pretty exciting to see these token-based models being used in an enterprise setting and solving some really challenging projects about some challenging issues projects have run into as they're trying to get this new type of collaboration. Blockchain's really a team sport, so getting that off the ground and into production, people sort of aligned to the right outcomes. I was curious, and this is for either Pat or Kyle, if thoughts about scaling now that you've got some initiatives that are in production and you're looking to grow the network. I know that you have conversations with people who aren't part of that initial group. And what are some considerations as they look to join? And does it help them through their consideration set to know that these initiatives are running on sort of industry standards and open source as well, since some of them might have separate blockchain projects? Maybe Pat, if you want to take a first crack at that, not to put you on the spot.
I think you broke up a little bit at the end there, but I think I understood the question was primarily about scaling the network. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and as people consider joining something that's already in flight and in production, what are their thoughts about trade-offs with being based on open source versus a more custom, like proprietary IP approach? Does that help or hurt people as they're looking at they might be running their own blockchain projects and they're looking to join this particular initiative because there's business benefits to them? But I'm curious if that comes up in the conversations or not.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, to be honest with you, there's always concern. We're dealing with very risk-averse folks at within the Risk Stream Collaborative. As you can imagine, it's an insurance blockchain consortium. They're constantly looking at the potential risk of a different projects. And an open source technology showcases a little bit more transparency with the industry, which I think allows participants to feel more comfortable that if they ever were in the needs to offboard from a network, that would be easily done. In addition to that, it showcases a little bit more of alignment with the underlying technology itself, that it's more of a network-based approach to things. And for a risk stream, it really does align with us too as an industry not-for-profit, bringing these various parties together. We're not trying to profit ourselves over on the risk stream side. We're trying to allow the industry to operate more efficiently. So yes, I think it's certainly been brought up before, Sophia. I'm curious of Kyle's perspective, if it's the same.
Yeah, it definitely is a message that resonates. That transparency aspect, the community aspect, are things that Synaptic was built upon from the beginning, as well. And then so saying, hey, we're going to work with this open source, so there's not that fear of vendor lock-in. And then also, for our ability to deliver, we have to be very focused on a narrow use case. We have a number of players, and so we're focusing on this narrow use case. However, we understand that technology is changing really fast, and that the companies, the people that are working on this aren't exposed to everything that's going on. And so having the comfort that this community is working on things and learning from different projects of things that we may not need now, but we need in the future, or problems that we didn't even know we had that now we may need to be able to avoid, I think is an important message, versus us trying to build our own. And so I think there's a lot of value there as we look to scale. And then you have a lot of people that just want to be able to, plug and play. And so they don't care that it's blockchain, it creates value for them. They want to be able to deliver it and trust that that's running. And so I think that that's another good message as well.
Thanks so much, Kyle. And Pat, I think we've come to the end of our panel time period, but very honored to have you both join us today. It's always great to hear your perspectives, and really very excited about what you're doing in the insurance and healthcare spaces. So thanks again.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Nico. We wanted to leave a few minutes for questions at the end, although we'll also go to Discord afterwards for follow-on questions. But I know there is a chat. People are anxious and eager to see the demo, so we're going to roll into that now. Right. Thanks again.
Sophia, do you want me to take over the mic here?
Yeah,
okay.
I'll send it over to you.
Okay, hello everyone. Can you all hear me? Okay, I think so. Okay, great. My name is Nico Geyer. I am a maintainer on the Hyperledger FireFly project and also the open source community lead. I'm super excited to show you FireFly in action here today. I've got a lot of stuff to cover, so I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And you should be able to see my slides now. Well, I have just a couple of slides to show a picture of what I'm about to walk you through to hopefully give you a kind of frame of reference as we're going through it. So we set out to build an excellent developer experience. We wanted a developer experience that's quick and easy for anyone to get started. Whether you are a seasoned Web3 developer or this is your first Web3 project. We wanted it to be powerful enough to meet the needs of experienced developers, but also approachable. We wanted it to use familiar tools and patterns that developers could just pick up quickly and easily. And we wanted the whole thing to be able to run offline on a laptop. And so that's the experience that I'm going to walk you through today. It's I'm going to show FireFly in action, but as part of that, we're going to see the what would it be like for a developer setting it up and running it on their machine, and what would they need in order to build an app against it, with the goal of showing how easy this is. So we're going to start with a tool called the FireFly CLI. If you've run FireFly before, I'm sure you're very familiar with this tool. It was around in our original launch last year, and it's come a long way since then. It has a lot more features, but this is the tool that's going to set up the environment on our laptop. I've already run it, and I have an environment running, so we don't have to wait for that, but I'll walk you through what I did there. In a nutshell, it uses Docker Compose to run all of the components of a Supernode right on your laptop. I've left the link to the FireFly CLI at the bottom of the page there. These slides will be available afterwards, so if you want to click on the link afterward and see where you can go to get this tool, that will be available. So I have this installed on my machine. I run it. I've set up a network. So a FireFly stack on a local development machine is made up of multiple supernodes. So Steve did a great job walking us through, what is a supernode? What are the types of things that it does? We had a great diagram where we laid out all the functionality and value of a supernode. This is a different view of what are the pieces that are in a supernode that are going to be running on my laptop. So I'm going to be running a network of 3 different nodes. I've pictured 2 here so just to save space. But you have the FireFly core with its web UI, which we're going to be looking at in just a little bit, the FireFly Explorer. And then you have all of the components that the FireFly core talks to, such as its database, the blockchain connector, tokens connector, shared storage. and all of that stuff are also running in other Docker containers. And each member of the network has their own supernode that they're talking to. So the goal is that I can set up an environment all on my laptop that is essentially a distributed network that would normally in production be deployed in multiple data centers by multiple organizations worldwide. But I can run it all on my laptop, and I have different API endpoints for each one that I can hit that have separate addresses, so that I can build applications that know how to talk to multiple supernodes if necessary. In addition, we also have a brand new thing, which I'm super excited to demo today, which is the FireFly Sandbox. The FireFly Sandbox is also going to be running inside Docker Compose. It's not necessarily part of the Supernode in a strict sense, in that it is designed as an application, as an example of an end user application. It exercises the FireFly API from the perspective of a user's application, and will build some code snippets of like, hey, this is how you do this type of thing in FireFly. So it'll make more sense when I show it. But so the two main things that I'm going to be walking you through are the FireFly Sandbox, which is an example of an end user application, and the FireFly Explorer, or the FireFly UI, which lives inside the FireFly core. So here's that FireFly UI that we looked at. This is sort of the view of what's happening inside my FireFly node at any given time. This is what the sandbox looks like. And in just a second, I will stop sharing. And actually, you know what? Let's hop over right now. I'm gonna slide over to this side. Okay, so here I'll pull up my terminal. The font size is probably too small to see, especially for those watching on YouTube. I apologize, but this is just a. You can't see that desktop. Okay, thank you. Hang on just a second. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Screen sharing. I shared the desktop instead of the entire screen. Okay, so I've just run FireFly command line to start my stack. I've started it with 3 members. For convenience and to help people follow along, I have named them red, green, and blue. And I have 3 different browsers here. I have a red browser, a green browser, and a blue browser. And so each of these represents a distinct organization and node within the FireFly network. So this is the FireFly Explorer. So right now, this is a brand new stack. I have not run any transactions. I've not sent any messages, but we can see there's an overview here that is going to start showing some activity as soon as we start doing things in it. This is just the dashboard. There are sections over here on the left-hand side for blockchain specific things that are off-chain, such as the data payloads that were sent with messages. There's a section specifically for tokens and viewing the network. So, and this is our network map, which is this beautiful visualization here. So here's the red organization, the blue one, and the green one. Unfortunately, I called them these colors, but they always show up as yellow in the Explorer. So don't pay any attention to that. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the sandbox. So this is what we're going to be going back to this view, the FireFly Explorer, to see things as they're happening in FireFly. I'm going to pop over to the sandbox though. And this again is an example of an end user application. So this is going to be a program that sits outside the Supernode that's accessing the API to send messages, perform token transfers, and all that good stuff. The cool thing here is, so there's a form off to the left-hand side, and I can fill out this form and it will generate the code snippet that I would need to put in my application if I were building an application that needed to do this functionality. So here we're going to send a broadcast message. So I could type in, hello, everyone. And you can see that updates in real time over here. This is a code snippet that is using our brand new Node.js SDK. And this particular example is in TypeScript. And so it's going to have nice, rich type information as well. And when I hit run here, what's going to happen is there's the back end server application of the FireFly Sandbox is going to make a request to FireFly to broadcast a message. So I'm going to hit run, and then we'll see I immediately get a response from the server, and it is of a type message, and it has an ID. I got a 202 accepted. So that means FireFly has accepted the message and then it will send it. And this happens to be a broadcast message, so it's going to be using the blockchain to hash and pin that message, and it will be using IPFS to actually transmit the payload to all the members in the network. So here I can see on the right-hand side, I can see all the events that were related to the action that I just took by broadcasting that message. So I can see there was a transaction that was submitted, a blockchain event was received when we hashed that message and pinned it to the blockchain. And then I can also see that the other members of the network have confirmed that message as well. So if I hop over to my other browsers now, let's take a look at the green one. I can refresh the FireFly dashboard and we can see that there was one message. We can go into the blockchain dashboard. We can see that there was a blockchain event. And the blockchain event just says that something was hashed and it was pinned to the blockchain. If we want to see the actual payload of the message, we can go to the off-chain section and look at the data tab. And here we can see there was a message here. So that's a broadcast. I'm conscious that we are running up on time. I really want to show some of the other cool things like tokens. So I'm going to kind of really quickly just show you some of the things that are in the sandbox. I'm not going to have time to do all of them, unfortunately, but if I can also send private messages here. I can pick which recipients I want to send the private message to. And I can just do this really fast. This is a message. I'm going to send this one from the green node only to the blue node. So the red node should not see this message. So we'll send that. I'll hop over to the blue node. Look here. Indeed, we have a message. I'm going to go to the off-chain tab to look at the data. And we can see this is a message. That was the private message that was sent from green to blue. And if we go look at red, if we look at data, red does not see that data at all. It would see the blockchain event that something was pinned to the blockchain, but this is one example of one of the ways to maintain data privacy in Hyperledger FireFly. It's sending private messages, and because we can see here the red node had no visibility to the actual payload of that message that was sent. Okay, I really want to show off some of the tokens capabilities because I think they're really compelling. So FireFly has the concept of token pools. Token pools are a grouping of tokens, whether they're fungible or non-fungible. And it's just a way to organize things in here. So first I'm going to create a fungible token. I'm going to call this FFC for FireFly coin. And I'm going to make the pool symbol FFC as well. And we're going to hit run. So that will just create the token pool. It doesn't create any tokens yet, but we can see that has been successful. Now I'm going to mint some tokens. Let's start with minting 30. So what's happening is behind the scenes, when I set up my FireFly stack, there is an ERC 1155 a contract that was already deployed to the blockchain for me. And that's what we're utilizing here. So you may have noticed I could choose between fungible or non-fungible. That's what we were seeing there. And so now I've minted, I have 30 tokens. I can choose to now just transfer some of those. So I'll pick my token pool. I only have one. I can choose who I want to transfer them to. Let's transfer 10 to green. And you can see we have a balance of 30 here. I'll run that. Got a successful transaction. I can refresh my balance. I have 20 now. I can refresh up here, and I can also preview my balance up there as well. And let's transfer 10 to blue as well. Okay, great. Let's do one more thing. Let's try to. So I'll check my balance here. I only have 10, but just hypothetically, what would happen if I tried to transfer 11? We can see that a token transfer failed. Yeah, so this is great that we get this event in real time through the WebSocket connection we have here in the sandbox. If we hop over to the FireFly dashboard and reload, we'll see that we get a little notification up here in the corner that something has failed. All right, let's take a look at that. We can see that it was a token transfer that failed. We can click on that and get more details about it. We can scroll down, look at the output, and we'll just expand the message here. And we can see that it says that there was an insufficient balance for transfer. So I intentionally failed something here so that we could see what that would look like in the FireFly Explorer, just to get a glimpse of how powerful this Explorer is in being able to understand what's going on inside your Supernode. I also want to show off the tokens dashboard real quick because it's super cool. So let's go expand the token section here. We'll look at the dashboard. So we can see there's been some activity. There's been transfers over here. Again, we had one failed up here, which is what we're expecting. We have 3 different account balances. So I started with 30 and I sent 10 to each of the other 2 members. So we have an even balance across them. I can click into the token pool and I can see all the details of that token pool. I can see when transfers have taken place, who they were to, who they were from. You know what? Let's burn one too, just so we can see what that looks like. I'll just burn one. I'm going to reload this page here and click burn. Come back to the dashboard, and now we can see that we've burned one. So that's also reflected in our balance here of the red members account only has 9 now, 9 FireFly coins. So there's just lots of really cool stuff you could do. All of this works with non-fungible tokens as well. And that's really cool. I wish I had time to walk you through every little detail of all of the cool things that it can do. I probably need to leave time for questions. I'll just very quickly give you a preview of the custom smart contract code in the sandbox here. There's some helpers that walk you through how to deploy a custom smart contract. I have a command here ready to go to deploy just an example contract. I'm going to breeze through this really fast because I know we're running out of time. I apologize that I'm having to kind of jump through a lot of this really fast. FireFly, as Steve talked about earlier, has a really cool concept of a way to describe a custom smart contract interface that is actually blockchain agnostic. It still encapsulates important blockchain specific details, but it's not bound to any one particular blockchain implementation. And we call that the FireFly interface. So I can create a FireFly interface by uploading some JSON of it. I can also, if I have an Ethereum ABI for a smart contract that I already have, I can start with that, which I do, and that's what I've uploaded. And FireFly can actually convert the Ethereum ABI for me automatically and generate this FireFly interface to save a developer having to do this handcrafting of a bunch of JSON. I can, after I have deployed a contract interface that gets broadcasted to all the members of the network, which is really cool. I can also create a RESTful API for that contract interface. And this is where I think some of the really powerful developer features come in. Now that I have deployed the contract, I have told FireFly what the interface is, and I have defined an API at simple-storage. I can click this button here, and it just opens up a Swagger UI that describes all of the functions on that smart contract. I can invoke the smart contract right from here, actually. So I can call the set function and click try it out. Let's set it to 42. We got a 200 okay. And I can go back here in my, I didn't create a listener for it. I probably should have done that first. And this is how we instruct FireFly to, how to listen to events from a custom smart contract on the blockchain. We'll run that real quick. And then I can pop over to here. Let's just run this one more time, and we'll set it to 7 this time. Okay, and then we got a blockchain event received that our stored value had changed. We can also go to the blockchain tab and look at events. We can see that there are 2 changed events here. We can click on the first one. Here's our value of 42. We can click on this one and see our value is 7. All right, there's a lot more that I wish I could show you. I wish I had time to go through the rest of it. I just wanted to wrap up by encouraging people to get involved. The best place to get involved, I know a number of people have asked, like, hey, how do I connect with you? The best place by far is Discord. I am there every day, as are a bunch of the maintainers. If you join Discord, I believe that link should take you straight to the FireFly channel in Discord. If not, scroll down on the left side. the Discord server is for all of the Hyperledger Foundation. So you'll see lots of projects in there, but come find us on the FireFly channel. We would love to connect. Happy to help people answer questions. If you're curious about how FireFly works, or if you need help with something, we'd love to connect with you there. And also, FireFly is open source. Go download the code, go play around with it, open a pull request, contribute something. We would love to work with you. And that is it. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate everyone coming out today. I'm not sure who I'm supposed to hand it back over to now. Probably Daniela.
I am going to see it now. So the good news is that you can learn more. Nico will be doing a workshop in the FireFly project team on April 20th. And that is going to be a virtual event at 10 a.m. Eastern. So please sign up. We're going to put that link right in the chat room. So please grab that and chat that and join us there so you can learn more. You'll have more time to dig in and answer any of your questions. I do see a lot of questions going on. If the team can quickly answer those. There is a blog post that also gives some additional information about the Hyperledger FireFly 1.0 release. So recommend that you take a look at that and share it on social media. Ask your questions, please, at Hyperledger if you have questions on Twitter, and we'll get to those as well, multi channels. These links will be in the presentation that will present when we put the video up, and that'll go up very shortly so that you can access. Thank you, Sophia, for linking those into the chat room. And once again, the Hyperledger Discord, as Nico and the rest of them said, please do follow us there. A couple other things, we do have some upcoming Hyperledger Foundation member webinars. These are in-depth webinars with our member companies around the products and services that they're building using Hyperledger technology, including IntellectEU, ChainYard, and CryptC in the upcoming months. So please do join us there and go to hyperledger.org events to register. Last but not least, I am sure there's going to be a lot of FireFly presentations. Maybe Kyle and Patrick will see you in Dublin as well. And it will be a great opportunity for us to meet in person. The Hyperledger Global Forum is happening September 12th and 13th. And on the 14th, we'll have some workshops in Dublin, Ireland. And we are very excited to see everybody in person. The call for presentations is now open through April 29th. So please submit your talks, get playing around and building stuff with FireFly, and submit a FireFly talk. And we look forward to seeing you in Dublin. I want to thank the panelists once again, Patrick, Kyle, Steve, Nico, and Sophia. A great presentation, jam-packed. We look forward to attending the webinar and to reading and deep diving a little bit more about FireFly. So thank you all for watching, and we will see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.